Hey everybody, KennedyHawk and Hone here. We are going to go through the two new heroes that have been, that articles have been put out for by FFG for the new Shield box. So let's get underway. Welcome everybody back to the MCM Podcast. We're going to be releasing this episode as a video and in audio format. So I have with me today Hone. How's it going, Hone?
Pretty good, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think we're in the last month of the year.
It has been
where
a
did
2020
2024 go?
It has been a 2024.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care where 2024 is. I care about February 2025 right now, but that's because I'm very excited.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Have you been playing a lot of Champions recently?
I have not, unfortunately, mostly just because work's been kicking my butt. But
Tisk.
hopefully, with the year winding down, I'll be able to get back to it.
Yeah, I have been able to get Magneto's pack and at least play a couple games with his precon and start building decks with him. Mainly, I'm just really excited about the leadership cards in his packs. Maybe we should talk about how amazing Magneto's pack is next episode.
That sounds great. Is leadership your favorite aspect with Magneto?
I haven't decided. Well, with Magneto, I have no idea. I care about other characters with those cards. I've only played with his precon so far, so yes, it is my favorite with Magneto.
Favorite and least favorite.
Favorite and least favorite, ranked first and last.
It's pretty good.
Feels great. All right. Well, today we're going to be going over the preview articles for Maria Hill and Nick Fury. So I am going to get my screen shared here, and we can do our initial takes on, 2 weeks later, takes on Maria Hill and Nick. So, on November 14th, FFG posted this article, The Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. previewing Maria Hill, one of the two new heroes for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. expansion. So do you want to take charge on Maria or on Nick? Who do you feel more comfortable with?
I'll do Nick since, speaking of leadership, Maria's leadership, and I know you're the blue person on the cast.
Good, I definitely read Nick's article, so that'll help me a lot. No, I'm just kidding. I did. So Maria Hill is the first hero that was spoilt, and she is super unique. I would say like one of the most unique designs we've seen in Marvel Champions in a long time. So I'm not going to read the article verbatim for you, but I thought we would go through what her hooks are, what cards got spoiled, make sure to look at each card, and then talk about what we think is interesting, not interesting, exciting, or terrifying about Maria. So, Maria Hill, like all heroes, has an alter ego and a hero form. Her alter ego form has 3 recover and has a cool deck building gimmick. Like a lot of the boxes have one of those heroes that has a deck building gimmick going all the way back to Spider-Man. So it says, you may include the maximum number of copies of 3 shield supports in your deck from aspects other than your chosen aspect. And then she has an action, Exhaust Maria Hill. Search your deck for a shield support and add it to your hand. Pretty sweet. In hero form, she is a 2 thwart, 1 attack, 2 defense hero with the shield and spy trait. And then each ally you control gains the shield trait. So kind of the old Star-Lord treatment, giving all your allies a synergistic trait with your hero. She has the special ability Reassignment. Action, move 1 all-purpose counter from a shield support to another shield support. Limit once per round. So you can kind of move around those green tokens from the core set from TAC team to med team or better things that we'll talk about here soon. So what do you think about the alter ego and hero form of Maria?
Super strong. It feels good, I think the moving the counters around will be super interesting, even without the spoiled stuff of just like you could play cheap things and kind of move things around off of them. I think one of the interesting things actually this time around for me is have we had things where you can be both like the faction trait on both sides, like out of the box? Like, is this the first time they've done this?
I don't think we have, right? I think there's a lot of characters that have the shield trait in alter ego form that don't have it in hero form. Like Hawkeye
even like that, Avenger and
yeah,
X-Men
we've never had Avenger or X-Men on both sides of a character. You've always had to get that honorary card placed first.
Yeah. So I think that's the thing that really caught my eye. I think like probably the least interesting mechanically from the things we're talking about. But
wow,
I think it is interesting that it is your shield on both sides.
That's true. Um, I think she seems pretty exciting. I like the ability to exhaust to search your deck for something. It feels like a very powerful ability. And after going through like 18, what it feels like 18 mutant heroes, that was like, when you go to this form, shuffle something back into your deck. It's nice to have something that's slightly different. I also like just getting cards, so I'm okay with that. At first, I thought she was going to be a great meditation target, but that requires you to exhaust as well. So you can't just go like fish out a med team and then exhaust immediately to play it. You have to end up with it in your hand or find a way to ready yourself.
You need Shield X Mansion. That's what you need.
That's true. That's true. Shield X Mansion. Shield Utopia?
Yeah, Shield Utopia.
Shield Utopia.
Yeah.
So, obviously, she's going to synergize super well with shield-traded support cards, which is a very small set of cards in the game so far, right? We've had a little bit of shield injection during Sinister Motives, and then we had some earlier on in the game, like Triskelion and the core set shield package stuff. And then I think there were a few in Ironheart's pack as well, if I remember right. But yeah, they've been kind of sprinkled all over, so now we're getting like a huge focus in Maria's precon deck. One interesting hook that they gave us for Maria is that she is a hero that has no attack and no thwarting events. So you aren't going to be playing an attack event or a thwart event or a defense event as Maria. Instead, you're going to be balancing the secondary economy of all these tokens on your supports and figuring out how to use them in the best way possible. So they remind us of old cards like Command Team, right? This was a leadership shield support with 3 uses. You exhaust it to ready an ally. It's basically get ready, but on a stick. And then they show us this new card, Support Staff. So it's a new shield support with the Persona trait that comes in Maria's deck. It has uses with 3 staff counters. So you can exhaust Support Staff and remove 1 staff counter from it to generate a wild resource for a player whose identity has the shield trait. What do you think about the resource generator there?
It reminds me a lot of Web Shooter. Mm-hmm. But I like that it, has this kind of global player effect like XJet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that'll be really fun in multiplayer to get this out from Maria.
Yeah, did Milano work that way in Galaxy's Most Wanted too? Is that the first card we had
Milano
where
did.
It was a resource shared amongst the group? I think that's a super interesting dynamic for multiplayer, where I think Maria is going to be like a staple at a ton of tables for a long time.
Well, I think the one thing that can take into account, though, when you're doing Maria, it means that no one can play Leadership Maria ally, which, reminds me a lot of, I think, in Lord of the Rings, where anytime someone played like Gandalf hero, it meant that you can't play Gandalf ally, which kind of crushed some decks. But
definitely true.
Yeah, so I think that'll be interesting. For support staff in particular, I think, like when you talk about Milano, it feels bad if you don't use it every turn. But I do think one of the things that's interesting, because there are counters on it, you may not want to use it. So I think there'll be a little bit more interesting choice of like, is it worth to burn like the token on here to do that thing across the table even?
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great resource generator. I'm excited for it. Most of Maria's hit revolves around shield supports. We could have figured that out. So we have cards like Reinforcements, which is a 1-cost event. Choose any number of shield supports with a combined printed cost of 6 or less. Place 1 all-purpose counter on each of those supports. So basically, if you choose something that's 5 or less and support staff, you like pay the resource back that you originally paid for Reinforcements. You just turn it into something that can be spent for shield characters in general, which is pretty cool. We get a Shield Director upgrade. It's a 2-cost unique upgrade. It's got the title trait. We're waiting for synergy there, FFG. Action, exhaust, shield director, place 1 all-purpose counter on a shield support. So, and this is also interesting. It doesn't have to be one of your shield supports. So if you are going all in on a shield deck, you can like pass supports from yourself to other people, which is pretty cool. We get, I think next is an event on the double. So on the double is a 0-cost event in Maria's kit. Action, ready any number of shield supports with a combined printed cost of 6 or less. So it's going to let you sort of double tap one of your shield supports or multiples of your shield supports if you have cheaper ones. And we get Special Funding, which is a resource. So it provides a mental and a physical resource. Response: after you spend this card to play a shield support, place one all-purpose counter on that support after it enters play. What do you think of that slew of cards that I just mouth vomited at you?
I think 6 seems to be the magic number here, that they like to kind of cap things off.
With the Sinister 6.
Yeah, makes sense. I think they'll be really interesting and fun depending on all those other supports we're gonna get. But I do think the zero cost card on the double,
The ready, yeah,
is also interesting because we already have like good non-counter supports with like Sky Destroyer and Government Liaison, right? Or Helicarrier even, right? So being able to double tap any of those, like you could double tap a Sky Destroyer and Helicarrier, and like doesn't feel bad for a zero cost card.
Yeah, I guess you get both, right? That does feel pretty good.
Both for zero, or you could even double tap like because it's any number, so it's not even you control, right? So like you can be across the table as well, and so again, I think leaning into that kind of director
multiplayer person,
so I think that's fun. I mean, you could like double tap 2 Helicarriers, which I think no one will be sad about that.
My favorite card of those 4 is Special Funding. I'm a sucker for resource cards, and I like having double resources in my hero kit, so that gives me more options for deck building if I don't want to include the basic double resources. But I think getting the extra all-purpose counter placed onto an item right away is amazing. Like, my favorite card from Rocket Raccoon is Salvage, because it works so differently and synergizes with his kit. I think that Special Funding is going to be really cool and really versatile because you'll get to like pick which support you're getting the extra counter on. So if you need it to be extra thwart, it's a resource that could do that. It could do extra attack. It could do extra all sorts of things that we'll talk about next.
Yeah, I feel like that leans into you got to talk about the supports that she has. Because I think the ones that we have don't really illuminate like how powerful this is, right?
Well, I don't know, right? I really like Monica Chang from Sinister Motives. If I remember right, what she does is when you play her, you get to search your deck or discard pile or hand for a copy of Surveillance Team and put it into play, and then place 1 extra counter on all copies of Surveillance Team. That card is crazy, and it's really strong. It doesn't seem strong, but that extra counter, like giving your support extra life, turns out to be really good. And it's going to be even better, like you said, with the cards we're going to go over next. So we have a bunch of different Helicarriers, named Helicarriers, everybody's favorite thing. So we have the Iliad, I think. It's a 6-cost support. 6, that's a large number that we haven't
magic
seen
number.
before.
I feel like this is a like $5 foot-long ad, but we've replaced 5 with 6.
I don't have that sound effect ready. I'm sorry. $6 foot long. So it's a shield and vehicle trait with 3 uses for mission counters. I like that you can turn a mission counter into a staff counter using Maria's ability. Like, screw that mission, I'm buying another person. We'll let that mission fail. Action: exhaust the Iliad and remove 1 mission counter from it, and then choose. Either deal 5 damage to an enemy, remove 4 threat from a scheme, or heal 3 damage from an identity. What do you think of this big Helicarrier?
I mean, that just sounds... all those things sound amazing.
It's interesting to me because healing 3 from an identity is really strong, right? But First Aid costs 1, and it's heal 2 from an identity. So if I played 3 copies of First Aid, that would cost me 6 cards in total, which is less than this. And I guess it heals a little bit less, so it's slightly better than First Aid. But I like things to be more than slightly better than a basic card from the core set, right? But I think it's the versatility that is what makes this card so strong, right? You get to pick which thing you do. It's not tied into just removing threat or just doing damage.
Yeah, First Aid also has the benefit that's any character, so it's actually in some ways worse. If you wanted to feel even worse about Iliad.
Well, that's okay. Some of the other Helicarriers here have me a little bit more excited. So we have another 6-cost Helicarrier, the Circe, I believe. It is a shield and vehicle trait, and it only has 2 deploy counters with its uses keyword. Action: exhaust the Circe, remove 1 deploy counter from it, and choose a player. that player puts an ally into play from their hand. So sort of like a way to cheat allies in. You can cheat them in off turn. You can do all sorts of things. But I think that with only 2 uses counters, those allies actually have to be pretty expensive to be like worth the cost of the Circe, unless you're using, like we said earlier, special funding or Maria's ability to pump more tokens onto there from something cheaper like the resource upgrade. What do you think of the leadership support?
I mean, yeah, this just seems super strong. I mean, if you just play 2 Nick Furies with this, feels pretty good.
Unless he's the other hero in play already.
That's true. Even like 2 professors, even though they both cost 3, would still feel pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I think just being able to move counters around will mean maybe you're just the gift that keeps on giving that round. Or that game.
I think it is important to like think about how this ramps you up, right? Yes, it might, like, if you play 2 3-cost allies, you've only saved 1 resource, but you've also like maybe had a way to accelerate these supports, right? Using some of the resources that Maria has. Or you can, like, when you have a downturn, put this down knowing I'm going to need allies later, so I'm going to save this for exactly when I need it, right? It's a form of ramp as long as you don't use that last uses counter and make it go bye-bye. We've got one more unique helicarrier, the Pericles, which is a protection one. So this is one of those, you include max copies of an out-of-aspect shield support. So it is 6 cost again, shield and vehicle traded with 2 supply uses counters. Action, exhaust the Pericles and remove 1 supply counter from it. Give a hero or villain a status card of your choice, and give an ally or minion a status card of your choice. This card seems bonkers good. Like, amazing. Tell me I'm wrong, somehow.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, how much does invulnerability cost?
3, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we know that card's bad. But still, like, this cancels 4 activations. That's insane, right? Like, even Sonic Rifle, right? That cancels 2 activations or something like that, and it's half the cost. So I guess maybe the math works out. I think it's really strong. I think that seems like the strongest of the 3 to me so far.
I think if you're just talking on pure, like, value, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, like you're saying with the Iliad, you're really paying for versatility there.
Yeah.
And you know, like, if you're like, oh yeah, this just takes an enemy off the board, like, that is an activation.
Mm-hmm. And no, you're only.
Go ahead.
You go.
I was saying, like, healing 3 damage, that could be the difference between scooping and not scooping that game, you know? So I think you really are paying for that versatility, for sure, with the Iliad. But yeah, I mean, the Pericles seems super strong. Like, it enables, I think, like, stuff in Miles' kit as well. People who love those status effects, right? Mm-hmm. Press the advantage cards come online with this. You know, float. Like, you can imagine tons of, like, those kind of things. Like, this card's your best friend. Even Colossus one. Like, being able to give Colossus now more toughs there. I'd love
Ultimate
to play
support character. I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know how realistic these shield supports will be outside of Maria. That's something I'm interested to see. 6 resources is a lot. But I think it's worth the investment if you're going to pump more counters onto it using Maria's ability. So I'm curious to see how that works outside of Maria. Note you'll only get 1 copy of this card because it is unique. And it does say here you may include the maximum number of copies of 3 shield supports. FFG was in the Discord when this article went live, and they confirmed that you have to include the maximum copy. So you can't just, like, include 1 med team. If you're playing Leadership Maria Hill and you want to have med team, you have to include all 3. So kind of a weird deck building restriction thing. We have one more card from Maria's kit here. We have the Hard Call. It is a 2-cost event. Action, discard a shield support you control. Deal X damage to each enemy, where X is the printed cost of the discarded support. Go boom. Will it be a hard call when you play the Hard Call?
I think it will be if you're going to make me sacrifice the the Pericles. I don't know how you pronounce that.
I think it's going to be a very
Parasleys?
easy call, because I'm only going to do it if I, like, wipe out everything on the table. That is a resource for me. I'm sure people will use it very well, but that is not how I will play Maria, is my guess. All right, we've got some more leadership cards, so she comes with a leadership precon. So we have a 3-cost ally Victoria Hand, 2 thwart, 1 attack, 2 health, and the shield trait. Response, after Victoria Hand enters play, ready a shield support. What do you think?
It seems fine, I guess. Readying a shield support seems good, but I mean, I feel like paying 3. It seems balanced, right? Like you get a thwart for 2,
Yeah.
block, chump with it, but like it doesn't seem overtuned, I guess, in that respect.
I feel like in that Sinister Motives wave, we got Agent 13, and every time she thwarts or attacks, she readies a shield support, and she only costs 1 more. So I'd be sad. I mean, the difference between 3 and 4 resources is a lot. But here I feel like the 3 resources payoff is not nearly as much as just paying 1 extra resource and getting that basic character down.
yeah.
But that being said, like, just more of these can't be bad. Worst case scenario, it readies a helicarrier, which I think a lot of people are going to start running again once these cards come out. So, should be great. Next, we've got Organizational Support. It's a resource. This has been kind of like not a controversial, but a debated card on Discord. So interrupt. When you spend this card, exhaust up to 3 allies and supports you control that share a trait with your identity. Generate the printed resource on each card exhausted this way. And it provides 1 mental resource itself. So what do you think about Organizational Support?
This reminds me a lot of Strength in Numbers, I guess. Except you don't get card draw. Or I guess Band Together.
Yeah.
Well, no, Band Together is just number of allies, right?
Band Together is number of allies, but right, I mean, a lot of the, outside of Maria, or outside of shield supports, a lot of the things that are going to share a trait with your identity are probably going to be allies, right? Like, I think Quinjet has the Avenger trait, so you could use this with Quinjet and be cute and silly. And, like, you could exhaust your army of ants instead of doing damage to generate resources for Ant-Man for a round or something, if he's in tiny form. But I think a lot of people see this as exhaust 3 allies outside of Maria, where you're going to have a ton of shield supports and you'll be able to use those instead.
X-Men?
Yeah, like how many X-Men traded things are there that don't already generate a resource or draw a card?
I mean, I think like Mansion and Utopia. Like, you get, like, the plethora of those shared ones, right?
That's true.
Like,
you do have to exhaust ones you control.
Yeah.
But I think this card's still super fun. Personally, I think it's going to be great with shield supports, because as you're depleting those uses counters, you're not going to want to, like, let things fall off the board. You're going to want to wait until you can play that event that puts more counters out there. So I think that you'll want to have a way to use them. So in that way, for me, it does remind me a lot of Strength in Numbers. Like, exhaust this thing and don't deplete it so that it can, like, provide me some economy in a pinch. I also think it's, like, really important that this provides a resource itself. So even if this is being used in Avengers and, like, instead of Strength in Numbers, you drew this 1 turn and you exhaust those 3 Avengers to provide 3 resources. This is a 1 card for 4 resources resource at that point. That's crazy. That's really good. That lets you do a lot with the rest of your hand. So I think this card's still going to be crazy good, and I would only imagine we're going to get more, shield stuff in Maria and Nyx Hero decks.
Do you think this helps Bishop a lot? I feel like that's the question you ask yourself every time you see a new resource card, right?
I don't, because I haven't played as much Bishop as I wanted to recently. I don't know if it helps Bishop a ton. Because I don't know if are his upgrades temporal, and is he temporal? Is that some tricky thing you can do? I'll let you Google that.
I mean, he is definitely temporal. I know that much.
Okay. We'll check real quick.
Yeah.
This is really entertaining audio right here.
You typing?
I am.
His weapons are temporal, but it's only supports, right? Supports and allies?
Allies and or supports, yeah. So it's not upgrades.
He is X-Men though, so you do get like
You get X-Jet and all that stuff.
yeah, X-Jet, Utopia, Cerebro, X-Mansion, all those count
So,
for that.
not too bad.
And then you can also exhaust Randall and
Yeah.
Malcolm,
He does have
which
two allies in his kit.
which like potentially you could then use other cards to ready them.
Yeah. Once we get a hero that has the tech trait, we'll realize that all the tech things are upgrades and not supports and be sad still.
Yep.
I still think this card's going to be great. I'm excited for it. It also has the mental resource, so you can maybe abuse this with Spider-Man, right? And use Quinjets or something like that cute. I'll have to look into that. All right, next we've got Grant Ward, a 0-cost ally. We always brag about 2-cost allies. This guy costs nothing. By the way, spoiler warning for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that came out like 10 years ago. So if you haven't seen that show yet, maybe pause right now. Grant Ward has 2 thwart and 2 attack. The shield and spy traits with 3 health. Grant Ward cannot defend, so this guy will not be chumping for you. And forced response, after you reveal a treachery, you must spend a mental resource. If you do not, take damage equal to Grant Ward's attack and remove Grant Ward from the game because he's a backstabbing liar, as we all know.
This feels like a pool card, but I like the theme on it.
I like the theme. This is probably like one of my favorite cards revealed just for the theme and the art. I really like the art in that card. All right, we've got one card left. It is Front Organization. Location, support, play under. So you could exhaust this if you had the location trait. Hear that, FFG? Give us a Krakoa hero. Play under any player's control, max 1 per player. When an encounter card effect would discard a card you control, discard Front Organization instead of discarding that card. Finally, the card that counters that Con of Heroes card that you hate so much. Don't have to discard your whole hand anymore. Just discard your Front Organization.
But then don't you have to discard your whole hand?
No, because you discard this instead, right? It's a replacement effect or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah. I read the RRG once or twice. So that's
Do you think
Maria.
they made this just to counter your Con of Heroes card?
No. I think they made it to counter Caught Off Guard that a lot of people hate.
Just Skilled Investigator.
I think they made it because, so I know personally, as a Hawkeye player, if I like get my quiver or I like get my bow and flip into hero form and then immediately have to discard that, or even from like the core set, like with Black Panther, if I get 1 upgrade down that first turn and then I immediately get caught off guard, I'm just like, let's scoop this game and start over. And I can only imagine what it would be like if I played the Iliad turn 1 and then drew caught off guard as Maria. So this is probably to protect those big 6-cost magic number things. Look, only 5 people have liked this. Isn't that sad? I'm going to like it too. Oh, it broke. More people than that like this FFG, let me tell you.
I think I was not super impressed by this initially, but I think now that we're talking through it, I think it sounds a lot better because it's any discard effect. So you do have, effects that discard specific cards, right? So like maybe it's not an alien, maybe you just use Cersei to put in like a 6-cost Captain America or something, right? That you made shield. And you can discard Front Organization instead of that ally, right? So
and it's only if an encounter card effect would cause you to discard it. I was really excited when this spoiled, and I thought we finally had the day where height advantage was going to be good, but no, that card's still bad. Sorry, height advantage. You tried. All right. Well, that's Maria. Do you want to go through Nick next, or you got any closing thoughts on Maria? Because I am playing her when she comes out, and you don't get to play her when we do a live stream or something. Sorry. Sucks to be you.
as long as I get all of the leadership cards instead.
Whoa. You're a protection player. You got your green shirt on? None of this. No.
Yeah. No, Maria seems great. And sometimes wonder, like, is she the best no flip up hero? Like, just on the surface right now? Because
I'm not a no flip up hero kind of person. So
But I'm just saying, like, because you were saying, like, there's no like attack or thwart event, so she actually can play like her entire kit. I think from what's been revealed so far in Alter Ego, and then I know how much you like to tutor.
There's still hero actions, right?
Oh.
Hard call is a hero action.
Yeah, but you're not going to play that.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, not me. Certainly not. Gross. Why would I get rid of all my hard work? Somebody else can defend for me. Or take care of that minion or whatever.
Yeah.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think she could be a really strong contender. I think Black Widow is still there with a thwart and confuse you can use from Alter Ego form. That's just like, right, all of these supports you can still use from Black Widow, and you can just spit all her preparations out to thin her deck and draw extra cards, right? Like,
yeah.
I think that Black Widow, Maria, and probably Gambit all have really good Alter Ego only decks. I've also seen people do it with like Captain Marvel just in the core set, because you just draw infinite cards and play a bunch of allies, right? And turns out that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it just, I feel like her Maria Hill ability does allow you to, I think, mulligan super hard for resource cards.
Mm-hmm.
And then use it to basically fetch, like, let me pick the one, like, support I want to play on turn one, right?
Well, you can even use, so this might be crazy, but like, you could still use her ability to grab a shield support and use it as a resource. So you can mulligan super hard, because if you draw into the one you wanted to play, you can still get one extra card by exhausting your hero. And usually, like, that first turn, there's a little bit of threat to remove from the main scheme, but there's not, like, too much cleanup action going on. So you can afford to waste that, like, hero ability, or that Alter Ego exhaust on that first turn.
Yeah.
Or meditation.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
No, she seems like she'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited to see what the other kind of supports that are going to exist in the... I assume we're going to get... I don't know, like in her precon, I would expect, but I don't know. But I assume we're going to get ones in aggression and justice as well that are 6 costs. One would hope. If not in her pack, but in the cycle.
No, we're getting TAC team and surveillance team reprints. No, I'm just kidding. I have no idea.
I mean, you might get those too, right? Like, we're seeing command team in here, so...
Right.
But didn't you say then at that point they have to reprint all 3 copies?
Yeah, so we get 6 reprints of those cards. You'd love it. All right.
Yeah.
Maria's awesome.
Let's move on from that comment.
The rest of this episode is garbage. Anyway, tell us about Nick Fury. We're going to like this one, too, just to support FFG. You're welcome.
Yeah. Nick Fury is the best shield agent, I learned. He is also a surfer, which I did not know. But on the Alter Ego side, for our audio listeners, since they can't read along with us, is that he has the shield, soldier, and spy traits, has 4 recover, has the ability suit up, which is setup ability, put your suit form upgrade into play, assault side face up. We'll go into that card because that is a very important card for his entire kit. Then infiltrate. Action, change to stealth suit form. So he's one of these form-based heroes, and then has the 10 hit points, so stronger than Black Widow, and has the standard 6 hand size. On hero side, he has the good 2-2-2 lineup that all the solo players love. Has the same traits, shield, soldier, spy. On his thwart basic action, he has an star, which links to this gather intel ability, which says response after Nick Fury makes a basic thwart, place 1 threat on your suit form upgrade. So the suit form is going to have counters that we're going to have to track. And then break cover is a force interrupt. When you attack, change to assault suit form. So this is not just basic attacks. It's like any attack that you do, you're going to have to change the suit. So I think at this point, it's probably worth talking about this suit that his card basically talks about all over the place. And so we'll start with the stealth side first, even though that's not the side it starts in. Thanks to FFG. So this is an upgrade. It is suit form, and it has the permanent word, so it starts out in play. It has the item and tech traits, force interrupt on the hero side. When an enemy would attack you, it schemes instead, Place one threat from that activation here instead of on the main scheme if there were 5 or less threat on this card. So it does cap out at 5. So it does get a little bit of this, I feel like She-Hulk or Jennifer Walters being able to kind of mitigate that. But you get to do that in hero form.
She's better. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, well, she gets to do that in Alter Ego, and he gets to do that in hero form. But flipping on to Assault, so when you make an attack and this side flips, again, suit form permanent has the item and tech traits as well. Interrupt. When you attack, remove up to 3 threat from here. This attack deals 1 additional damage for each threat removed this way. What do you think about, I guess... I would consider the suit a core part to his identity.
That's part of his identity.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty awesome that like his suit just changes colors when it goes from assault to stealth. Like he's way stealthier when he's wearing gray than bright red. Totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. I think the stealth ability is like something people have been looking for in the game for a long time, right? When an attack would happen, make the villain scheme instead. This lets you use all sorts of crazy things that haven't been like super relevant before, right? Like, I think it's Great Responsibility is a hero interrupt. When threat would be placed, you take it as damage instead. Well, now you can be in hero form and have the villain scheme against you. So all of a sudden that like card becomes accessible. I really like that idea, and I like that it like provides some threat placement right away. I think it is going to be really tricky making sure you're in the right form at the right time, because as we know, like one bad advance in solo can be real bad. Even if you're preventing 1 or 2 of that threat, it's going to be gross. So prepare yourself for that, I guess. I also like that it has this cap, so you can't just war machine it and infinitely gather up enough resources that you can just flip over and one-shot the villain. You have to only be able to spend 3 at a time on an attack in assault form, and you can't just like sit there and keep thwarting an alter ego form to amass, a million counters.
Yep. No, that makes sense. I think anything that doesn't have limits is just asking to be abused by the players.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean,
what do you think? You didn't tell us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's really neat. I think he'll be much trickier to play than Maria Hill, just like off these 3 cards. Because I think balancing, like you said, that alter ego and hero form is a thing, but now it's just like you have to balance stealth assault on top of your alter ego. And so, like making sure you end up in the right form. And you can only, so far of what we've seen, change to assault at will, like basically
by attacking,
without like any other help, right? Like unless you flip down to alter ego, which I think makes sense, right? Like it's easier to go from stealth to assault, and it should be harder to go from assault and basically lose, your enemies following you, right?
It's a theme win. I'm okay with that.
So I think I like the theme win there. Cool. So moving on to, speaking of, I guess, flipping back into stealth form, he has an event called Concentrated Fire that costs 2. It's an attack. Hero action attack. Deal 4 damage to an enemy. This attack gains range. If this attack defeats an enemy, choose place threat on your suit form, upgrade equal to that enemy's printed scheme, or change to stealth suit form.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, I like the choices. As people know, we like choices on this podcast. This seems really interesting. Of just like it can allow you to just like keep rolling in assault, which is interesting because you're just like refilling your counters. And like it kind of self combos itself in that like you could spend the 2 counters to like get up to 6 damage to then kill that enemy to then put like scheme
counters
back on, right?
I like it. I dig it.
Yeah. So that one seems really great. I like the design on that. Spray Fire. 3 cost event. Attack trait. Hero action attack. Choose a player. Deal 3 damage to the villain. And each minion engaged with that player, this attack gains ranged. Another AoE ability. This seems pretty standard fare as far as just like from a numbers game of like does 3 to everything.
I think it's pretty standard fare if you don't use the assault counters or the threat from your suit, right? If you use 3 threat and you do 6 to everything, that's all of a sudden crazy pants. I think it's probably important to note that like this is similar to energy daggers from Black Panther's kit, or Bombs Away, which was like an aerial event that I think came in the Angel pack. Those are all not attacks, so Stunned will cancel this, but it also means that like if you have something that gives your attacks overkill or something else, it will trigger into this spray fire, which is pretty cool. So it's a little bit different in the way that it does this AoE, because it is increasable by things that increase damage from an attack, right? So there's a bunch of resources and supports we should think about from the past that could affect this in a McFury aggression deck.
Yep.
What we got? Oh, there's a secret one here that I almost missed.
Fury's Watch, 1 cost upgrade, item, tech. Resource, exhaust Fury's Watch, remove up to 2 threat from your suit form upgrade. Generate a mental resource for each threat you remove this way. This one seems really interesting. I like that it's not just a straight up generate, and that it does play into the suit. I do wonder how easy or hard it's going to be to maintain those counters on that suit.
Yeah, I feel like you're going to have to work pretty hard to get them on there. I thought this was going to be like a generate a resource and create a counter, but I like this much better. I really like the being able to get 2 resources off of it a turn, and I'm hoping that it makes the stealth tokens, or whatever they're called, the threat on your suit, very versatile, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, you can always generate by thwarting, because that is not locked to a specific suit form. On your identity, so you can
basic thwart. So you're going to have to do like thwarting and readying if you want to generate a bunch, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because let me double check. The flip, break, cover is any attack, not just a basic attack. So you could do a basic thwart and then use an attack event to break cover.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Next card, Covert Surveillance. 1 cost event. It's a thwart. Hero action. Remove 2 threat from a scheme. If you are in stealth suit form, you may place that threat on your suit form upgrade. Otherwise, you may change to stealth suit form.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Different than under surveillance. This is covert surveillance.
That's true.
Sorry.
It's nice to have a cheap way to flip to stealth form.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, the Concentrated Fire could be a dud card in your hand if there aren't minions out, right, that you can kill. So, like, it's nice. I hope you get, like, 3 copies of this in your deck, because it'll, I think, being able to flip to stealth suit form is probably really crucial to this deck.
Well, we have an 8, and that's a 6, so we could get a 6 and 7, is my guess.
Yep.
Who knows? What's Fury's Watch? Live stream. This is great. All right, next card.
Another upgrade. Secret Agent, 2 cost upgrade, has the great title trait. Hero response. After you resolve the ability of a preparation card you control, move 1 threat from a scheme to your suit form upgrade. This card seems really, really important.
It seems really important, but we haven't seen any preparations like in his kit. So I think it could be right. Black Widow is obviously themed around having a ton of preparations in play. If we don't have one in kit, I think that means we're going to end up really wanting to focus on pulling preparations in, and hopefully we get more this cycle to have choices for that, right? Because some of the aspects only have like 1 preparation, right, or 2 or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is not a stealth suit, even though it's supposed to be undercover, by the way. It is bright green, not very stealthy.
Yeah, I guess the spoil for people who haven't read it, he is Precon Justice, so I think this is not going to help him lean into more preparations outside of Justice. If that's what you were hoping to flesh out to some degree.
I meant like in the whole cycle, but
Yeah.
you never know. Maria might come with the preparation. They tend to do that I've noticed, like in the Age of Apocalypse box and in the next Evolution box. There were cards in Domino's deck that also fit really well into Cable. And there were cards in like Bishop's deck that fit well with Magic and Magic's deck that fit well with Bishop. So I feel like they do some of that synergizing. So maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense. They designed the whole cycle together and then figure out how to divvy up the cards. So,
We
yeah.
already did that one. Okay.
Yeah, I think the last card is his eye patch camera.
Oh, we do have a preparation. I'm a liar.
Which is a preparation. Yeah, 2-cost upgrade, has the preparation and tech traits. Is a hero interrupt. When any amount of threat would be placed on the main scheme, discard eye patch camera, place up to 3 of that threat on your suit form upgrade instead. This one seems super important.
Yeah.
On top of Secret Agent means like being able to get 4 counters on there.
And Stark Tower can return it to his hand. I like that.
Yeah.
This is cool.
But you do have... It is the 5/5 limit on that stealth suit.
It's the 5
Only
limit is only when you place the threat from them scheming. You can go over 5 by generating things in other ways. So any amount of threat would be placed on the main scheme. You can discard eye patch to place 3 of it there. But you can also use stealth mode, which places 1 of it. When an enemy would attack you, it schemes instead. Place 1 threat from that activation here instead of the main scheme. I don't know what the timing would work out. I'm not a Jennifer Walters. I would hope that you could steal 1 from stealth, stay under the 5, and then steal 3 more from the preparation. But it might be that the preparation has to go off first. I'm not sure. Somebody tell us in the comments below.
Cool.
Still really cool.
I think that's everything in his kit so far.
Yeah.
That's been spoiled, and so we're now moving on to the Justice cards.
Gross. Yellow.
Speaking of preparations, we are getting a new one called Informant. 1-cost upgrade, preparation trait, max 1 per player. When when a minion schemes, discard Informant. This activation removes threat instead of placing it. I
awesome.
really like the theme on this.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of like villainous minions, right? This card seems really cool in the modern world of Marvel Champions. You know, like core set when everything only had like 1 scheme, maybe not as exciting, but seems really good against some of the harder modular sets we've had recently.
Yeah. The nice thing is that you can make an elite minion and Informant too.
Yeah, I mean, well, you don't even play this on the minion, right? So you choose when you want to interrupt it. Yeah, really cool. And not a hero interrupt, so this can be used in Alter Ego.
And we get another preparation as well. Another 1-cost upgrade, Prism Dust. Preparation tech, max 1 per player. Your response... It's an attack. After a minion enters play, discard Prism Dust, confuse that minion, and deal 2 damage to it.
Why do you think these are max 1 per player? I could understand with Informant, you don't want to build too many of them up.
You can't manage too many CIs.
I mean, maybe you don't want to Informant the same guy twice, but maybe they provide twice as much information. I don't know. It's probably some kind of balancing thing. I was just curious. It's always interesting to me when there's a card that has max 1 per player, but not play under any player's control, because then you're like, okay, well, should I only include 1 in my deck? Or is it strong enough that I'm going to trigger it right away, so I should include all 3?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Are most of the preparations 1 per? I know Black Widows are not.
I am not sure.
Her in-kit ones are not.
I think a lot of the other ones you wouldn't want to trigger more than 1 of. Like, Anticipation is like you ready your hero, when... Here it is. It is max 1 per player. Anticipation, upgrade, preparation, max 1 per player. Amazing Hawkeye art. Hero interrupt. When you engage a minion, discard this card to ready your hero. So that's another one where it's like, why is this max 1 per player? Because wouldn't I just be like readying myself double? I guess it's so you can't like build up some giant engine and then not have to worry about it going away.
I know counterintelligence is also max 1 per player. Because I've tried to play more than one and been like, oh, I can't do that.
Sad day.
I think Spycraft is probably one of the is not max 1 per player. So you can actually cancel multiple.
Yeah, you could surge a lot if you want.
And then you can espionage multiple times too. So you can actually trigger. If you had like 3 espionages, you could draw like 6 cards off a single surge.
No, thank you. Target acquired is max 1. There's another aggression one I'm thinking of. Lie in wait. That's also max 1. Okay.
Yeah. So it seems like over half of them are. So it's just like a common...
Templating. Good job.
Yeah. But speaking of those basic preparations, we do also get a basic card in here. Another 0-cost card, like Grant Ward. But it's an upgrade this time. Practice Plan is a preparation. Max 1 per player, like we were just talking about. Response: after you discard a preparation card you control, discard Practice Plan, return that card to your hand from your discard pile. This
card seems really good. Like, that's the one thing about preparations is you can't really build your deck around them unless you're playing Black Widow with a way to recur them. Right? Rapid Response is a crazy preparation that people have, like, loved since it came out. But now, if you can just, like, play Rapid Response every turn, as long as you're drawing into another Practice Plan to, like, replace the discard, that seems strong.
Yeah, the other thing is this triggers Secret Agent as well. Because it's not an exhaust, right? So it is just a passive after you resolve the ability preparation card. So you just get a counter for doing it on top of the great ability that it does.
Yeah, so you get 2 counter, right?
Yep. You get to resolve the prep and then Practice Plan on top of that. So you get 2 counters, which seems fantastic.
More basic cards, though.
Yep. But I think those are all the preparations.
Oh, my screen stopped sharing. Sorry.
Your screen did stop sharing.
When did that
We're
happen?
now just an audio podcast.
Yeah, apparently. My bad, everybody.
It's because we had these side quests for these other like old cards.
Ah.
Yeah.
We're learning a new technology today. Tech upgrades, not our thing.
So... You know, everyone loves Nick Fury, but of course we have Nick Fury Sr., who is a 4-cost ally that is basic, has 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 hit points, has the shield and soldier traits, force response. After Nick Fury Sr. enters play, choose 1. Remove 3 threat from a scheme, draw 2 cards, or give a shield character a tough status card at the end of the round. If Nick Fury Sr. is still in play, discard him. What do you think about this?
It feels like bad regular Nick Fury.
Well, but you can't play regular Nick Fury if you're Nick Fury.
I understand, but like, I mean, Professor X didn't feel like an upgrade, but he felt like at least equivalent to like the.
I mean, it helps that he costs 1 less.
Away. He also costs 1 less. What did the original Nick Fury do? He removed 2 threat.
2 threat, 4 cards, 5 damage.
It wasn't 4 cards. 3 cards.
Oh no, it was 4, 3, 2.
Yeah, yeah.
4 damage, 3 cards, 2 threat.
So you can remove slightly more threat, or draw less cards, or get a tough on a shield character, which isn't terrible. He can always give himself tough, but like he's gonna go away, so why?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like tough is definitely the most interesting thing on this card.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we'll see some shield things. Because we did just see that protection support as well, giving us kind of the ability to do status stuff. So maybe we'll see some really neat things with status stuff in Shield Kit.
Yeah.
I'm super happy that these allies are in the game as a for this next card, as I did watch that show. Speaking of,
well, too bad they're not allies.
Oh yeah, support. But it does mean you can exhaust them for organizational support
Hey.
as well.
Hmm.
3 costs. Leo Fitz is a support. How's he not an ally? I guess he's just not on the field.
He's not a field agent.
That makes
Belongs
sense.
in the lab.
Way to stay in your lane. Persona, shield trait. Reduce the cost to play Leo Fitz by 2 if your identity has the shield trait. Alter your action exhaust Leo Fitz, search your deck for a tech card, and add it to your hand.
Seems good. I still really like things that let you fish into your deck and find stuff. Seems really strong. It was great on Maria. It's gonna be great on this guy too. This could be cool with Iron Man. I think this is gonna be really cool in repurpose decks because you're constantly like shuffling tech upgrades back into your deck, and then you want to have them all the time. So being able to dip down, even if you're just putting a tech upgrade in your deck, so that every time you dip down, you like actually get slightly more card advantage, doesn't seem horrible.
Yeah, I do like how they do the trait stuff on this, where you can play an Iron Man, but I mean, obviously, this feels fantastic at 1 cost if you're a shield character.
Let's go, Hawkeye.
Yeah. Great with Black Widow too, right? Like you can pull out your gauntlets of tech, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So, like that's pretty nice. And then there's a bunch of prep cards as well that are also tech cards. So this feels like such a huge upgrade for Black Widow.
Super relevant.
Yeah. All right. But you can't talk about Leah without talking about Jenna Simmons, who's also a 3 cost support. Has Persona and shield traits. Reduce the cost to play Gemma Simmons by 2 if your identity has the shield trait. Resource. Exhaust Gemma Simmons. Generate a mental resource for a tech card.
Good if you got a lot of tech cards, right? I mean,
Yeah.
seems good.
Yeah. I mean, they obviously combo well with each other. Pull tech cards out. Make them cheaper with Gemma. And I guess thematically, does that make sense? I don't know. I don't know if they do.
Yeah, we'll call it good enough.
Cool. And then the last spoiled card, Super Spies. A 0 cost event. Team up card, Maria Hill, Nick Fury, max 1 per deck. Hero action, place a total of 3 all-purpose counters and or threat tokens on shield supports and or suit form upgrades.
Pretty cool. I like that we have the Maria and Nick ally already, so we can this will work really well in solo, even if they're not signature allies.
Yeah, though I feel like none of them really want to stay around.
It is true. Just got to draw it at the exact right time. Maybe by drawing cards from those 2 allies. You never know. So what are your thoughts on Nick Fury? Way more complicated. But
yeah, I think he has a lot going on. I'm really curious kind of where... I do think he will become, because of his leaning of preparation, if we get a lot more preparation cards, I think it'll give him a lot more options, maybe more than Maria, for just how to build around his prep stuff.
Yeah, it's possible. I think Maria having that ability to give all allies the shield tag is something that's being overlooked right now, because we don't have anything that pumps a bunch of shield characters. But every time we get something that focuses on tribal synergies, that could be really strong. So
I mean, have you not seen that yet? It does mean that organizational support works for NA allies in her deck.
Yep.
And then obviously, does that trigger Sky Destroyer? I guess it does. Like how
I think it does. Just
Star-Lord triggers Nowhere.
Yep.
So
every ally now triggers Sky Destroyer.
Yeah, I feel like the shield trait stuff is good, but not great yet for me caring about that so far.
Does that let you use government liaison on every ally?
I don't think so, right?
I don't think so either.
I think it's like
You
the
need a
moment it
rules person.
enters play, it gains it, right?
I
Like, you
believe
can't
so.
use it to, like, you can't use team building in Star-Lord to reduce the cost of an ally, right?
That's a good point. Yeah, so it's not going to work with government liaison. Womp womp.
Yeah. So you can't do that. But I mean, it means that anything you play can trigger Sky Destroyer. It means that all those zero cost events means you can exhaust any of those allies, organizational resource. So I think it's good. It's just I think it will get better once we probably get the inevitable team up card at some point, whether
Yep.
that's in her kit or in her precon or down the line in the cycle.
Sweet. Well, there you have it. Nick Fury and Maria Hill. I'm psyched. This box is probably the most hyped I've been for a box since Mutant Genesis. So I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, no, I think the scenarios look cool that we talked about before. These heroes look really fun, and yeah, I'm excited to get more stuff in a shield.
Yes. Shields up. Let's go. All right. Well, until next time, this has been MCM Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.
Bye, y'all.